can move on to the second speaker, Dr. Ganeshan Shanmugavelu, Senior Lecturer in the Department of Educational Studies, Institute of Teacher Education, Ipoh Campus, Malaysia. He has 20 years of experience in the academic field as a teacher and lecturer. He did his PhD in Malaysian history, focusing on Malaysian Indians from the University of Science, Malaysia. He had published his research papers in various Indus journals, including Scopus and ISI journals. In 2020, he has published 15 research articles in Indus journals, and also in the same year, he received an Excellent Award for publications. So it's my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Ganeshan Shanmugavelu onto the scenario. Over to you, sir.
Okay, can you hear me or not? Hello? Afia?
Hello, sir. Yes, sir.
I asked somebody to handle my slides. I
Okay,
asked somebody
okay.
to handle my slides to right. Do you have my slides? Okay. Jinu,
Okay, sir, it's clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, because my computer got problem just now, even the speaker was giving problem just now. That's why I have to go out and come back again. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I think Jinu is handling the slides, right? Jinu? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He is handling that.
Okay. Very good evening to the audience in India, and also a good night to the audience and participants from Malaysia. All right. This is the third day of our virtual workshop from 18, 19, and today is 20th. We were discussing about from the first day regarding ethics in the research and also research problem by Dr. Mageswari. And yesterday, some of the topics like from Ms. Saraswati from Malaysia regarding TVET. And just now, Dr. Muhammad Ifwad, a solid presentation on a publication in a high-impact journal. And my topic will be on research, but is totally on historical research method or research method in historical studies. So this is social science research with the focusing
Dear participants, please wait for 5 minutes.
very sorry, my line here got a lot of problem. Dinu, you can go for the next slide. Can you or not? Hello?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay, very sorry. Very sorry. My line here is very bad. Very bad. Okay, anyway, before I go further into the historical research method, let us see what is research. Although all of us know what is research all about, let me give some overview on the meaning of research. Okay, research is actually a process of planning, executing, and investigating in order to find answers to the specific questions or objectives, right? In order to get a reliable answer to the questions, the investigation must be conducted in a systematic manner so that it is easier for others to understand the logic of and be convinced about the result. Okay, this is a basic view on research. Okay, next. Research is about the purpose of inquiry and investigation. It's also systematic and methodological, can increase knowledge. Why we do research? Because to improve our knowledge, and it's a contribution to knowledge. It's replicable or can be conducted later from other researchers. Is when data are interpreted systematically, is done with a clear purpose. So this is a research basic. Okay, next one. The purpose of research can be summarized as follows: to generate new knowledge, to add new input for existing knowledge, to review and synthesize existing knowledge, to investigate some existing situation or problem, to provide solution to a problem. The first day, Dr. Magis was talking about how to find research problem, how to find the gap, and so on. Okay, next one. To explore and analyze more general issues, to construct or create a new procedure or system, to explain a new phenomenon, a combination of any of the above. And research, normally people tell, is re plus search. That day, during the first day, I think the professor from Punjab was mentioning about research. Okay, so that is the basic concept or overall view on what is research all about, because all of you all here can be students, can be professors, or so on. We do a lot of research. Okay. All right. Now we go for my specific area of my presentation today on historical research. What is historical research? All right.
वाह बेल्ट पे लिखा आपने फिर कौन सा
All right. Historical research is a methodology which systematically collects data, objectively analyzes, describes, and interprets an event. All right. History. Okay. Historical. The aim of historical research is to study past events and to predict their future course. Of course, we can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but it will be a lesson for us through the study of history, what happened in the past, because historical research only research the past. Birch and Liao stated that historical research or historiography attempts to systematically recapture the complex nuances, the people, meaning, events, and even ideas of the past that have influenced and shaped the present, okay, the present situation, or maybe World War and so on. Historical research is not used to control or manipulate variables. As what we can see, scholars, in other research, there are variables, independent variables, dependent variables, and so on. But in historical research, we don't manipulate variables. The researcher is responsible for objectively weighing the evidence and evaluating all statements concerning a particular event to reach a sound conclusion. Okay, there is no independent variable, dependent variable in historical research, because we don't test the variable, we don't test the questionnaire. Okay, it's more on document analysis, interpreting the data through the evidence with the support of primary and secondary sources. Later, I will discuss about primary and secondary sources. Okay, process of historical research. Historical research procedure is similar to that of other research methods. Okay, research is always, we can say that all research go through the same process, all right? Only thing, the content or the procedure to do the research might be different. Although historical research is qualitative in nature, but it's totally different from other qualitative research. It involves stating the problem, okay, forming a research question, collecting data, systematically and evaluating the data objectively, validating the research question, and discussing the research findings, okay? The research findings. All right, next one. In historical research, variables are not manipulated because it is impossible for researcher to change what has happened. What has happened is happened. All right. So we want to find evidence on certain particular event and to write up and document it for the future generation. All right. The history of India, let's say, history of Tamil Nadu, history of Malaya, Japanese occupation in Malaya, and so on. What he can do is to objectively evaluate past events with systematic, rational, and scientific modes of thinking to understand what, where, why, and how an event occurred. All right, this is what history all about. Normally, people will talk about what, where, who, when, how it happened. Historical research involves the following steps: identify an idea, topic, or research question. Conduct a background literature review. Any research literature review is very important. In the case of historical research, normally when we write up the thesis in other research, literature review will go into chapter 2. But in historical research, literature review, we will explain the literature review in chapter 1 itself. Later, I'll show my research, or my PhD research, the outline of the research, the chapters. Then we understand better how it goes all about. Refine the research ideas and questions. Determine that historical methods will be the methods used. Okay, the method used in historical studies is historical method. Identify and locate primary and secondary data sources. Okay, in historical research, the most important factor is primary source and also supported by secondary sources. If you don't have primary source, you can't do research on historical studies. Of course, definitely cannot. Primary source is the core for historical research. Evaluate the authenticity and accuracy of source materials, analyze the data, and develop a narrative exposition of the findings. Okay, for the next one. Data collection. How we collect data for historical research. Literature review, as I said, as we know, in any research, plays an important role in historical research. It is the main procedure used in historical research. Why we do literature review? Because we want to understand better on the topic we're going to do and see what has been done in the past on that topic, and also, of course, to find the gap, and also we come up with a better idea of our topic. Literature review makes the historical research more meaningful as it involves all kinds of research sources, regardless of whether they are in written, recorded, or electronic form. All right. So historical, literature review can be in any form. In addition, the process of literature review in historical research is conducted in a more in-depth manner through the identification, reference, and evaluation of the truth compared to other research methods. We want to find the truth of an event happen in one area, one place, one country, and so on. So to find the truth, we need evidence. Where to find the evidence? Through primary and secondary sources. So this is all about historical research. I hope there are. All right, literature review sources are the prime sources of information for historical research, because no other research instruments are used to collect data. Primary source is very important for historical research. So those historical students are doing historical studies, they know what is primary source all about. Without primary source, we can't do research on history. We can't do anything, in fact, because primary source is the main evidence of anything happen to an event and so on. Apart from literature review sources, individuals involved in the past event being studied can be interviewed to collect live data. We can also do interview in historical research to particular person, a group of people, and so on. Information obtained from these individuals constitute primary sources that are equally important to information from original documentation. There are two kinds of historical information sources. All right, next one. Okay, this is the one I'm talking about. Okay, on historical research, the core of historical research. First, primary sources. What is primary source? A primary source is first-hand evidence. It was there at the time of an event. Original documents and reports from the participants themselves or direct observation of an event as it occurred. For example, primary sources, primary sources like reports, official documents, speeches, letters, legislation, court decisions, diary, interview, artifact, statistical data, and so on. Most important is the official documents, all right, kept in the archive in each country. Every country in the world have their own archive, national archive. So this is the place where they kept all the documents, printed documents, files, colonial files, and so on, for the future researchers to conduct the research based on the evidence of files that is kept in archive. Secondary sources interpret original documents and gives background information about the topic of the research. Secondary sources are like articles, journals, dictionaries, encyclopedias, books, journals, newspapers, biographies, films, tape recordings, and so on. These are all secondary sources written, okay, and kept as an evidence. Each historian brings a unique perspective to whatever is being studied. How a historian interprets information can depend on what information is available to the historian at the time. Okay, at the time. Let's say we're going to do on Japanese occupation. If you talk about Japanese occupation, I would like to touch in Malaysia, Malaya during that time, Japanese occupation. Where to get the documents? Go to the library, go to the archive, or even go to Japan. Maybe they have the files. Okay. In addition, a historian's past and present can influence what questions they will ask about the topic being studied. All historians can bring unique perspective to subject matter. Okay, to subject matter. Same goes the other research as well. Okay, contents of historical research. Historical research studies an event and the continued changes that happen in human life. Of course, in historical research, we are studying about human, about a country, about a nation, and so on. It also researches related phenomena such as organizational development, okay, historical development of an association, for example, and humans are there, definitely. Who is the leader? So human factor, we can't avoid human factor in this historical research, okay? In historical research, human characteristics such as religion, custom, belief, philosophy of life, language, and personal achievements are the topics of study. Right? Organizational studies cover aspects such as organizational leadership style, membership of organization, organizational activities, environment of the organization, movement, as well as history of an organization. Let's say a researcher going to study on BJP or Congress Party. All right. So this is organization. So definitely the researcher have to look into the leaders, their minutes, and so on. So it depends on the time frame of the researcher. what time frame he's going to study on that particular organization. Historical research could be carried out of an individual or a group of people, or the history of an organization or a place. All right, history of a place is a local history, for example, and so on. Historical research studies current and past events, trying to present the characteristics and state the meaning of the events. Historical research is related to human activities and organizational events. Hence, it is related to various fields of studies, such as anthropology, psychology, architecture, linguistics, sociology, philosophy, geology. It all covers in historical research. Well, once you're studying of a particular country, all these aspects will come into the research, but the focus must be there, or the scope of the studies. Although historical research studies are mainly conducted using qualitative data collection methods, some historical researchers like to use figures and numbers to present their data. Meaning here is they want to know the economic status of a particular country during that time period. They are not giving questionnaire to analyze the questionnaire and then to interpret the questionnaire. They want to know the data, okay, the data of a particular aspect of financial statement and so on. From that, the historians or the researcher will study and interpret and connect to the topic that they are doing, actually. Not giving questionnaire to individuals and answer the question and interpret the questionnaire and come up with the data. No, it's not that. Okay. Data are sometimes enumerated or illustrated in tables and figures. It helps readers to get a complete picture of events in a specific time lapse. All right, the next one. Okay, sources of historical research. Just now we were talking about primary source and secondary sources. So there are two types of historical research data. One is live data. Historical information can be obtained from live data sources such as people like friends, colleagues, and relatives related to the subject being studied. Meaning here is we interview direct, live to the particular person and so on. Recorded data. Recorded data here is actually can be found in archival, in archive. In any country, they have their own archive. National archive, state archive, and so on. Collection centers such as libraries. I think in Tamil Nadu also they have their own archive, confirmed. Because my supervisor did his master's thesis on Indian history. His master's MA on Indian history, about Madras presidency. So he came to India for 1 year to get the information, all the sources, and return back to Malaysia and do his research and write up his thesis for masters. All right. So he came to Tamil Nadu archive, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. All right. And memorial centers. Besides these sources, historical information can also be obtained from online sources such as online newspapers and historical database. Can, but it is actually secondary sources. All right. Okay. Handling historical data. Historical research normally contains rich data that comes from various sources. If a researcher researching the life of a former world leader, for example, people want to do a research on Jawaharlal Nehru, for example, data sources for this study could be formal and informal letters, memoirs, reports, transcripts of speech, memorandums, photographs, memoir, biographies, video clips, audio recordings, and so on. If want to do history on biography of a particular leader, of a state leader, and so on. In the last part of my slide, I will show there is a PhD thesis did in Tamil Nadu on Kamaraj, the chief minister, on him, PhD thesis. Later I show the content of the thesis, the outline. So that is research on biography. To keep track of the data from all these sources, the researcher will need to organize them for easy access. Video clips and recordings could be transcribed into verbal data and arranged into paper or computer files. Handwritten transcripts of video and audio data should be scanned and stored as computer files for future reference. Okay, so how we keep the data is very important. Okay, next one. The data should also be labeled. Historical data can be arranged according to objectives of subtopics of study, in chronological order or based on the importance of events that occurred. So we must be very systematic once we collect the data, and how we keep it and how we analyze it in a systematical order. All right, analyzing and discussing results in historical research. All right. Sources of historical research data must be analyzed based on scientific methodologies to determine their originality. It is called external criticism. And accuracy. Accuracy is internal criticism. So what is external criticism is refers to the authenticity of the document that we collect to analyze and then to interpret and then to write up. That is external. And internal criticism is used to detect and determine whether the document that we collect contains error or lies. So it's a very complicated aspect for historians when they do their study, and especially to write up. Because in the normal quantitative research, once you collect your data, statistic data, you interpret through SPSS and so on, and then you write up based on the finding. But for historical research, it's very complicated to do the write up because sometimes the materials are very raw. Let's say reports, the colonial reports during British rule, for example, minutes. How you interpret? How are you going to write? How are you going to interpret and write up? Okay, it's not easy actually, in fact, or to all the participants, because of those people who are doing historical research, they know how complicated it is to write a word. When you analyze from the minutes, the reports, how are you going to write up in a proper sentence and so on? Interpretation is very important. You cannot be biased, all right? So it is very complicated part actually, in fact. All right, 4 factors. Okay, something is okay. 4 factors must be taken into consideration when determining the accuracy of the source of information, as below. Okay, next one. What are the factors? Next. First, knowledge and efficiency of the author. Second, time period between the time of recording. Okay, between the time of recording. Wait, my computer here is giving a lot of problem. Wait, the time period between the time of recording and the time an event happened, and then motive. Okay, motive of author. Any bias in views and self-interest. Any bias in views and self-interest, or writing influenced by emotion about the research. And number 4 is consistency of data. All right, consistency of data. All right, consistency of data. Okay, next one. After the information have been collected and its originality and accuracy are ascertained, external and internal criticism just now, it must be arranged, analyzed, and synthesized in order for a conclusion to be made and generalized. So this is what actually, after interpret, we have to synthesize, analyze, and also do a conclusion for what we have done. Historical data is systematically arranged. However, presenting the data in an orderly manner is comparable to presenting the demographic data of a quantitative research. without interpreting the meaning of the events, the data is just record and not a research report. Okay, if we collect, keep without interpreting, is just a data. So in any research, writing is very important. Okay, we can collect many. It doesn't matter it's quantitative research or whatever research we are doing. We collect data, we collect all information, everything, and then we are not writing. We have problem with writing. Without writing, there is no research. In fact, there is only data. There is no report. That's what my supervisor always told me last time when I was doing my PhD at University of Science Malaysia. You must write after you collect your data. It can be wrong. Never mind. My job is to correct whatever written, whichever is not correct. So without writing, some students, until 1 year, they never write anything. It happened. It happened. But because they feel very difficult to write and then to present in the writing form. That's why writing is very important in doing a research, when writing a thesis. Same goes to when write articles for journals. Writing is very important. The words we use, the sentence, and so on. Writing skill is one of the main aspects to do research. In fact, after you have collected your data and so on. Historical research should be concerned mainly with historiography. Historiography. What is history? Historiography. What is historiography? It means interpreting historical events and relating them to other variables in an attempt to obtain the meaning of the events. Okay. There was a PhD research done in Malaysia on world recession in 1930s, 1931-30, world recession, 1930s, a PhD thesis in history. So once we study the thesis, we can know what happened during that period, 1930s, during economic recession. So that is what history all about. And now they are telling this year economic will be bad throughout the world. Maybe after 20 years, everybody going to do the research, they will come back and do the research what happened now. Because history will, in historical studies, the researcher will do the research on the past things happen before, not the future, past. The variables are social influence, culture, development, achievements, and other values of the event. Let's say we are studying on an event, so the variables are what are the social influence and so on. If we are to do historical research, we must seek not only to identify the chain of events, chronological, that comprise history, but also to understand the meaning of the events. Okay, it's not just a write-up telling story. Like telling story. Research people say telling story, but with evidence, with proof. Like for other research, with data, supported by data. For historical research, most important thing is the evidence and write the truth about the event that happened in that particular time, particular area, particular leader, and so on. Of course, people might be talking how about biasness. As a researcher, with any research, we mustn't be biased. Okay? Simple as that. We cannot be biased. Write the true facts of that event that happened during that period. This is, I'm talking about historical research. When a research is concerned with historiography, the findings of the research becomes attractive and fascinating to the readers. When the reader read our thesis, our writer, our research, we must make sure that they understand when we write, what we write. If they cannot understand, there is something wrong with our research and our write-up. It must be kept in mind that the historical research process is not merely statistical analysis. Okay, this is the true facts. Historical research is not statistical analysis. It requires logical and rational analysis of the sources and data. Let's say we are doing a research. We also need some information from the accounts report of a particular organization. So that is statistic. So we have to analyze the accounts and so on to come up with a conclusion. Thus, the researcher must avoid being influenced emotionally or pandering to his self-interest to ensure that he presents objective conclusion of his study. Historical research must be very objective. That's why people always talk about objectivity in history. Yeah? Objectivity, okay? All right. So normally people, what is history? If you look at history, always we call the father of history is Herodotus, who did his research during 5th century, I guess, on the Persian War. Okay, Herodotus, and then he come up with the research with the title history. That's the word come from history. His story, my story. What story? True story. How the true story came into when we write up? True evidence. It's not fiction, or it's not literature and so on. It's a true story. Okay, historical research. All right, I have give some basic view on historical research for all our participants here. I think most of you are from different backgrounds, science background, technical background, maths, bio, whatever. It's okay, no problem. As a researcher, as an academician, we need to know about other research as well so that we understand better, oh, this research is about this, this is the way to conduct this research, this is the method, and so on. Okay, it's very important. Although my background is in history, I do research on management. I do research on education. Okay, where I use quantitative studies. So to make us more knowledgeable, a lot of knowledge on research. Okay, let me show on my PhD thesis, which I did, which I completed in 2015 because I was a part-time student doing PhD. It took me 5 years to do the research and write up. My supervisor is an Indian, Malaysian Indian, Dato' Anbalagan. So the thesis was submitted to Department of History, University of Science, Penang, Malaysia. And Dr. Anbalagan is an expert in Indian history. I mean, not Malaysian. Of course, he's an expert in Malaysian Indian. He did his master's thesis on Congress Ministry in Madras Presidency, 1930 to 1933. I think his master's thesis. He did in University of Science. He came to India and do the research. And his PhD thesis was about Indian identity in Malaysia. Okay, so I did under him. My topic is, okay, the yellow color is the Malay version, because my thesis is entirely in Malay language, national language of Malaysia. Akhbar-akhbar Tamil dan pemikiran tentang kaum India di tanah Melayu, 1946 to 1960. In a way, you learn Malay language now for the participants in India. The translation is, I did on Tamil newspapers, and their thought or thinking on Indians in Malaya. Okay, now it's Malaysia. After 1963, when Malaysia was formed, it is called Malaysia until now. Before that, it was Malaya during British period. So my scope, my time frame is 1946 to 1960. 46 to 1960. Submitted to University of Science Malaysia for the award of degree of philosophy in history. Okay, next slide. All right, this is my cover of my thesis. It's in the Malay language. All right, Akhbar-akhbar Tamil dan pemikiran tentang kaum India di tanah Melayu. 1946, 1960. All right, next one. This is the abstract. Never mind. It's okay. The aim of the study process. Okay, never mind. Go to the next slide. I was just posting it there. All right. Okay, look at the chapter 1. In historical research. Look at the chapter 1. In the chapter 1, I don't know. I think in India also for historical studies they do the same thing. I think.
Count करके बोलो 14,
All right.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
The subtopics are background of the research, research question, research objective, scope of the research
खुद
is
लिखो
important.
16
So
बच्चा
literature review.
प्रैक्टिस नहीं किया आज आपने 16 then
There's some interruption, I guess. It's okay.
वहाँ नहीं है वो तो 21 है पहले 1 2
Significance
लिखना
of
था ना आपने
research and research methodology and chapters. that that will be written in the thesis. All right, this is chapter 1. Chapter 2. Next slide. All right, chapter 2, I focus on the history of Tamil newspapers in Malaya. History of Tamil newspaper. So there is an introduction and how Indians in Malaya involved in the publication of newspapers in Malaya. And for audience here, actually it is very much influenced by the reporters and journalists who migrate from Tamil Nadu, India to Malaya during that time, 18th century, late 18th century and early 19th century. So these are the journalists and the editors from India who came to Malaya, and then they influenced the Malayan Indians. I mean, all are from India last time, right? So they start newspaper publication in Malaya. So the involvement is based on the influence by the journalists from India. And then history of Tamil newspapers in Malaya, one of the subtopic. I was looking into when was the first Tamil newspaper was published in Malaya was, the name is Singai Varadamani, published in Singapore, because Singapore was part, Singapore is actually is a part in Malaya before they separate in 1965. So it was started in Singapore, called Singai Varadamani. Singai is Singapore in Tamil. All right. And my focus of my studies is based on 3 Tamil newspapers. That is Tamil Nation, Tamil Murasu, Jananayagam. I cannot, of course, during that period of time, so many Tamil newspapers, I cannot study all the newspapers. If I study all the newspapers until now, I wouldn't have finished my thesis. So I focus on 3 newspapers. Tamil Nation was published in 1924. Go back, go back just now. Back, okay. Tamil Murasu, published in 1935 in Singapore. Jananayagam, published after the Japanese occupation, 1945 until 1950. All these newspapers were started by the journalists from India, Tamil Nadu. Okay, Tamil Nation, no more in publication. Tamil Murasu, still published in Singapore. Jananayagam, no more. All right, okay, next slide. Okay, chapter 3, I was discussing on politics of Indians in Malaya based on the perspective by the Tamil newspaper. All right, the thinking of the Tamil newspaper just now, my topic is on, I was looking into the editorial of the newspapers. Editorial, not everything, editorial. Okay, editorial. In Malay, they call sidang pengarang because every day there is editorial column. The editorial is the thinking of the newspaper. Every day got any issues, different issues. So that are the issues I highlight. So one of the main issues during that time is political of Indians in Malaya. So I was looking into how these newspapers influence political awareness among Indians in Malaya, because all the Indians came from Tamil Nadu, India, and so on. Mainly from Tamil Nadu, Tamils. Others are from other part of India, from Gujarat, from Punjab, yes, of course, from Kerala, from Andhra, and so on. But majority are Tamils. That's why Tamil newspaper is published in Malaya, right? And then the formation of Malayan Indian Congress, which exists until now, Malaysian Indian Congress, the first political party, political base. Before that, they have a lot of social-based organization. So how this political party was established and how these Tamil newspapers played their part in the forming of MIC. That's what I look into the newspapers, the discussion and everything, how they influenced the Indians to support the Malayan Indian Congress, which was formed in 1946 after the Japanese occupation during British period. All right. And then development of struggles of MIC, fight for the, for Indians in Malaya during that period. So how it developed. So this on all in the perspective of the newspaper. Okay, newspaper, Tamil newspaper, because the only medium that time was newspapers. Like I think any country, not like now, you have WhatsApp, you have mobile phone. During that period, 30s, 20s, newspapers, even no TV. Newspapers is the core of information for the society, for the people of, most of the countries, in Malaysia, of course. So newspaper is the source. Newspaper can influence. Newspaper can make the people think about what's happening. So that's why newspaper is very important. When I was doing my thesis, people asked me, why are you going to study about old newspaper? Is it so important? I say, yes, it's very important. It's very important. Huh? Why you want to study old newspaper? People can go to the archive and read. I said, go ahead and read in the archive and go and collect and read. How long you can sit there and read and get the information from the newspaper. Simple as that. Only researcher will do, like us, will do, sit and make our head, think a lot on how to do, what to do. Normal people, they just go and read and go back. Simple as that. Okay. All right. Next chapter, chapter 4. Okay. One more main issues that was discussed during that period in Malaya is Indian citizenship issues, because Indians came from India, live in Malaya during that period for economic purpose, and then they want to settle down in Malaya. So one issue that came that time is to get the citizenship in Malaya to be the citizen of Malaya. Without become a citizen, they have to go back, on and off, go back and come back, go back and come back. Like now, how the Indian workers are coming and working in Malaysia, they go back, come back. Okay, of course, they cannot get citizenship. During that period, British time, those who are born in Malaya after 1957, automatic can get citizenship, all right? Okay, so this is what actually issues. And Tamil ethnic awareness. Majority of Indians in Malaya are Tamilians from Tamil Nadu. So I was looking at the newspapers, the editorial column, on how these newspapers ask the Indians in Malaya, doesn't matter they are Tamils or from Punjabis or what, to apply for citizenship to stay in Malaya. So how these Tamil newspapers played their part? Very important part they played actually during the time, after reading it. So I was having some problem, because luckily I can read Tamil. I have to read all the information in Tamil, translate in Bahasa Melayu, Malay language. It's another work, and then write up in Malay. So two different things. It's not easy. Read everything in Tamil, get the points, everything, whatever written, interpret and write in Malay. So this is my thesis all about. And one more is MIC, the Malayan Indian Congress. What's their part to ask the Indians to apply for citizenship? So how these newspapers played the part to push MIC to ask the Indians, because MIC was the only political party, Indian-based political party at that time. Okay, and then one more issue is Tamil ethnic awareness, Indians and Tamil ethnic awareness. How the Tamil awareness have to be integrated, infused among the Tamilians in Malaya. So these Tamil newspapers played their part in the aspect of Tamil language, develop the Tamil language, literature, unity among Tamils, and one more important thing is the Tamil festival, which is celebrated until now after Pongal. After Pongal, they will have Tamil festival throughout the country in Malaysia, where they have all kind of traditional traditional dance, traditional whatever based on Indian background. All right, this is how the Tamil paper played their part to develop the Tamil awareness among the Indians, especially Tamilians in Malaysia, all right, during that period of time, 1946, 1960. So Tamil festival was started by the author of Tamil Murasu, Ko Sarangapani. He's from India. Okay, so Tamil Murasu newspaper is the one who plays important part for this Tamil festival during that time. All right, this is chapter 4. Chapter 5. Next slide. All right, chapter 5 is on socio-economic issues of Indians in Malaya. One important aspect is Tamil schools, Tamil education. How these Tamil newspapers played their part in the development of Tamil education. So the problems, the parents' role, teachers' issues, and one of the educational report, Raza report, how these Tamil newspapers plays their part to develop Tamil education until now. And we have around 520 Tamil schools in Malaysia, second largest after Tamil Nadu. All right, 520 plus Tamil schools in Malaysia still exist for primary-based education. All right. So one more issue, social issue, is toddy drinking among Indians, among the laborers in the estates. This is a social issue. This is highlighted by the newspaper to give awareness to these Indian laborers not to get involved in toddy drinking, which give a lot of problem for the family and the social background. Okay, so the Tamil newspapers played the part. And problems of Indian laborers who are working in estates of plantation, rubber plantation, the problems like wage problem, workers union, living standard, and so on. All these are highlighted in the editorial column in the 3 particular newspapers that I studied. Then I read up, I come up with the issues, give interpretation, and how it gives impact to the society until now. All right. Okay, and then conclusion, the chapter 5. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the conclusion chapter, right? Conclusion chapter. So altogether 6 chapters. Historical research can go into 7 or 8 chapters. All right? 6, 7, 8 chapters. No issue. So bibliography, the primary sources I use, that's why we were talking about primary sources. I use is 3 Tamil newspaper. Although just now I mentioned newspapers are secondary sources, but for my research, my primary source is the newspaper. It can be primary source because I'm doing a research on newspaper. So it is the primary source, the 3 newspapers, Tamil Nation, Tamil Murasu, Jananayagam. And government official documents. CO files is colonial office files in the archive. BMA file is British military administration files. MU file is Malayan Union file, not Manchester United files. It's a Malayan, not the football team, Malayan Union files kept in the archive. All right, these are the primary source where I have to get it and then read and see whatever issues discussed in the Tamil newspapers, support by the documents here. And then only I can do the write-up because you need evidence. If the paper is telling about toddy drinking habit, I must see the file, a document, whether the report is there. Yes, it's there. Labor report, Labor Department report, statistical report, population report, annual report. These are the things, and government and other official reports. This is very important in historical research. Anybody doing historical research, this is the core. This is the basic fundamental things they must know. The files and so on. Depend on the topic, depend on which country they are doing. If I'm doing on India, I must come to India and collect the files. I can't get the documents in Malaysia. If I'm doing on Thailand, history of Thailand, I must go to Thailand. So that is what historical research all about. The researcher must go to that particular place where he's doing the research based on the topic he's doing. All right, secondary sources are books, journals, academic thesis. Academic thesis is secondary, magazines, and so on. These are all come into the literature review and support to the primary source before write-up. Okay. Okay, one more thesis. This one is in Tamil Nadu. Was done in Tiruvika Government Arts College, Tiruvarur, Tamil Nadu, March 2013 by N. Sivakumar, Doctor of Philosophy in History in Department of History. The title is, just now we're talking about biography, right? Social Transformation Approach of the Rule of K. Kamaraj Nadar in Tamil Nadu, 1954 to 1963. So we can see any historical research, there will be time frame like this. Mine is 46 to 1960. Without time frame, it's difficult because we won't have a limitation then doing historical research. So we only can do the research based on this time frame about past. What happened in the past. We cannot, without time frame, we don't know where we're going to stop. So it is not a historical research then. Okay, next slide. So this is the thesis. I got it from the Google. I was searching and then I got it from in the internet actually. All right, and then next one. Okay, the content of this thesis. Chapter 1, a brief personal and political biography of Kamaraj. Chapter 2, educational reforms of Kamaraj rule. Okay, educational reform of Kamaraj rule. Chapter 3, upliftment of depressed class people in Tamil Nadu. Chapter 4, next slide. Development of irrigation, agriculture, and industries. Chapter 5, Rural Development and Women Empowerment. So this is the content of the thesis on Kamaraj. Okay, so my thesis is something unique because Malaysians are multiracial society. My supervisor is an Indian. My internal examiner, 2 Malay lecturers, one professor and one associate professor from University of Science of Malaysia. Okay, University of Science. Internal examiner. My external examiner is a Chinese, Professor Danny Wong from University of Malaya, the well-known university, the first university in Malaya, University of Malaya. He's an expert in Vietnam history, Southeast Asian history. He's a Chinese. He's an external examiner. So that's why I tell people, my thesis written by Indian, supervised by Indian, examined by Malay, examined by Chinese. That is the product of my thesis in Malay language. All right. And there is another thesis by my former lecturer, Professor Dr. R. Sundaralingam, a well-known professor in the world, but he already passed away. Yeah? So he did his PhD thesis about India, Indian history, expert in Indian history. His thesis was done in 1966. I was not born. I think many of us are not born. In University of London. The title is Politics and Change in the Madras Presidency, 1884 to 1894. A regional study of Indian nationalism. All right, this is his PhD thesis done in University of London, and the book already published. The book is the title of the book is, if I'm not mistaken, Imperialism and Nationalism in India. I think. Indian Nationalism and Historical Analysis. All right, this is my former lecturer when I was doing my undergraduate in University of Science, Malaysia, Professor R. Sundaralingam. His student is my supervisor, Dr. Anbalagan. So Dr. Anbalagan's student is me, myself. So I have a very good input from these lecturers, especially the late Professor Sundaralingam. He has published many books on Indian history. You all can search, Google search, Sundaralingam R, Sundaralingam Ramanathan. In the Google search, you all can search his articles and so on about India, about Indian history. All right. Okay. The next slide. Next slide is thank you. Terima kasih ya. In Malay language, Nandri Wanakam. So this is my topic on historical research. I hope the participants, all participants here, get some information. Although you are not doing in history, but some information on how to do historical research about the past events that happened in any country, about a country, about a person, even and so on, which give a lot of impact to the society and the nation. All right, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I hand over the host. Give me one.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Haruna Ibrahim from
Yes,
Uganda, something, is it?
yes, I'm Ibrahim Haruna from Ghana. Yes, thank you
Ghana.
for your yes. Thank you for your meticulous presentation. Very, very extensive. Yeah, and I have really enjoyed your thesis, your PhD thesis. Yes. My question to you is, looking at your experience in historical research in this 21st century, how applicable is historical research in the business fraternity? How applicable?
In the business? Oh,
fraternity.
applicable. How applicable in the business fraternity?
Yes.
In this 21st century?
Yes, in this 21st century, yes.
All right. Okay. Of course, it's a very good question. Always people will be asking why you do past research, what is the impact for the present and the future, right? This is what actually when we talk about historical research, people still have the question mark. This is all past history happened. How it is important, applicable now or in the future. And not only in business fraternity, as you are asking, Aruna, in any field, any aspect, how this historical research give impact or applicable. Of course, history is past, and it's a lesson for us actually. In fact, when we talk about history, it's a lesson that what happened in the past, if it's good, if it's have impact for the country, for the development of the country, we can take it positively. If there is a negative impact of what happened in the past, so it's a lesson for us to change, to overcome or to change our lifestyle and so on, so that this thing won't happen again in the future or in the 21st century. All right. Okay. This is what actually, for example, I'm talking about, I'm mentioning about economic recession, 1930s in the world. We can read a lot of books, a lot of theses done in particular country. There was one thesis, economic recession and its impact, socio-economic impact to the Western states in Peninsula Malaya. And there was one thesis, the impact on Java Island in Indonesia, economic recession, 1930s. It happened. When you read the thesis, you can see what happened, how the people struggle for a living and so on. So it's a lesson for us during that period of time, what they have done. So if that thing happened now or in the future, what are we going to do? How are we going to overcome? Okay, how are we going to overcome and so on? Of course, it's not easy to overcome anything happen like that, economic aspect, but we will be prepared mentally, emotionally, and so on. When this thing happen, this is what we're going to do so that it won't give lot of negative impact for human life and so on. All right. For example, you're talking, you were asking about how in the business fraternity, we can do research on business bank also, the collapse of the bank in historical perspective. I'm talking about historical perspective, so which can give impact at the present or the future, because history study the past. So that is what we're going to use, how we're going to apply in our life, how we're going to live for the future. Doesn't matter it's 21st century or 22nd century and so on. We won't be living in the other century, but we learn some lesson from the past, from our experience, from the people who live during that time, and then from the research done, we study, we read, and at the present we know, okay, this is what is going to happen, this is what happening, this is how I'm going to change my lifestyle and so on. Let's say COVID virus 2020 can be done research after 20 years. In any perspective, I tell you, in medical perspective, even in historical perspective, no issue. So when we study during that time, anybody do the research, it will give impact for the generation during that time, if it happen in the future. All right. So this is my view, Haruna. I hope I answer your question. Or maybe you have your own view, Haruna.
Yes.
If you have your own view, you just get there. No problem. Because
Thank you, sir.
maybe
well
from medical field, right? You were
explained.
telling.
My
whichever
next
field
question
we
is
are, we can give opinion. Okay.
my next question is,
Yes, Aruna.
yes, assuming without admitting, I am a businessman, an entrepreneur. I said, assuming without admitting, I am a businessman or a potential entrepreneur. I want to purchase a company from you. You own a company, and I want to purchase a company from you. How can I apply historical research, or should I rely on historical research to make a decision in purchasing your company? If yes, why? And if no, why?
If you want to purchase my company, is it?
Yes.
You want to buy my company, so you want to
Yes,
know
so-
in the perspective or historical. Of course, you will look into the background of my company, right? Whether my company is profitable, whether there was a problem and so on. So you will do some basic research on my company. Okay. So when you do like that, of course, historical research is coming into without your knowledge. Of course, you are not looking for primary source or whatever, but you want to know background of my company, you will do some search from anybody, from somewhere, from the report or whatever, and then you have confidence. You are very confident that this company is good and this company is worth buying if I purchase the company, because I already studied the background of the company. So that is the thing actually. So indirectly, you are looking into the historical background of my company. Even you want to buy a house, same thing. Even you want to buy a land, you will go back and see, okay, what is this land all about? How the value, what is important about the land, and so on. Okay, so that is my view actually, Haruna.
All right. Yeah. Well explained. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Any
sir.
other
Thank
question?
you.
I just want to ask one question. If time
Yeah,
permits,
Kiran.
can I go ahead?
Yeah, never mind, no problem.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah,
So,
Kiran.
actually, historical data you have given more and historical data you have given more and more information about the data, how we can collect the source. But I just want to ask is, what are the obstacles which occurs when we are using this method, historical method? What are the obstacles which come,
Oh, what are
and
the
how
obstacles?
can you overcome these obstacles?
Oh, very good question. Kiran just now. Okay,
Yes, sir. My
obstacles
name
and
is
how
Stanley,
I
sir. Stanley.
overcome it. Oh, Stanley. All right, Stanley. You are a lecturer or student, Stanley?
Sir, I'm a lecturer.
Stanley? Oh, lecturer.
Yes,
In
sir.
what
I'm a
field? Your
lecturer
background is?
in management.
Oh,
I have
management.
done
All
my
right.
MBA in management. Yeah.
Which university in India? Which college?
College MMCOC. It's in Maharashtra, Pune.
Oh, Maharashtra, Bombay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pune.
All right. When we talk about Mumbai is most famous for India, from people in Malaysia, Mumbai. All right. Obstacles. All right. Any research, it doesn't matter is a historical research or whatever. Definitely there is an obstacle when we do our research, especially when we want to collect our data, we want to get our sources, resources, information, and so on. It's very basic in any research. Sometimes we are stuck when we do our research because we don't have enough information. Even want to go and interview a person, if you do qualitative research, it's another obstacle to get appointment with the person, with the group, and so on. Okay, in historical research, particularly, okay, the main important is the primary source. Just now I was mentioning, right? Without primary source, you can't do research in history. So in order for you to confirm, that's why the topic, the area you're going to do in historical research, make sure that the primary source is there. The primary source is there. So without primary source, you can't do the research because you cannot use secondary source to write your report. Secondary source is a supportive to the primary source. 100% secondary source, you can't use for historical research. It's not historical research anymore. It's just a report writing, all right? So obstacle here, I face, you're asking what I face. Okay, the first important thing is the thing when I decided to do my research on Tamil newspapers, when I talked to my supervisor, he was asking me, are you sure you can get these newspapers, these old newspapers to do the research? That is one. I said, never mind, sir, I'll try to find whether the sources are there in the archive in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, all right? So that is the thing. Of course, during I was doing my research, research to get the sources, some of the obstacles is to get the some edition of the newspapers. It's very difficult to get. The original copy plus some of the newspaper was already microfilm in the archive. So microfilm is another hassle. It's a very obstacle to sit in front of the microfilm and screen like computer, right? It is running. You run the thing, and then you you look at that, and then you note down in a piece of paper. That is very hard, actually, very difficult for me. If it's a hard copy printed newspaper, it's easy. You read, you get the points, you note down. That is the one of the obstacle. And then one more thing is secondary data is not enough also for me because not much research was done in Tamil newspapers. Of course, first degree academic exercise, yes, but for PhD level, they are looking into language mostly. They are doing in Tamil language PhD or newspapers. Okay, they are not looking into the content very thoroughly. So when I was doing my literature review, I was thinking, okay, good, this is the gap. Dr. Maish was mentioning right the first day to find the gap. When I saw nobody done PhD level on Tamil newspaper, they did in different perspective. I'm talking about the editorial, okay, the editorial column. So I feel that this is the gap which I need to explore. You see, I need to explore and go into it. Take some as a challenge because my background is not Tamil education. I'm a Malay and English education, but luckily I can read Tamil. So I took it as a challenge. I read the papers in Tamil language and then I translate. I never asked anybody any help. Entirely done on my own, except for certain Tamil words. I asked my college Tamil lecturers. Other than that, editing, everything I done my own in Malay language because my Malay language is very good. Okay, my Malay language is better than my Tamil language written. So I never give anybody to edit and so on. Everything's entirely me because I feel satisfied to write the thesis on my own. Another thing, other obstacles are many obstacles because I was a part-time student. So I need to travel from my state, Perak, from my working place, Ipoh to Kuala Lumpur. It's 3 hours journey by bus, or you can take a train around 2.5 hours, like that, to go to the archive. National Archive is in Kuala Lumpur. All right, I have to take off and so on, because the newspapers are all kept there in the archive. So I have to go there. Although I registered in University of Science Malaysia, most of my studies I did in the archive because that is the place where they keep all the historical document, files, colonial office report, and so on. All right. So that is the obstacle, and I overcome it by, of course, because I was thinking anyhow I must complete my thesis in 5 years. Written 5 years, sent for examination. I did that in 5 years. I completed. Although I'm a part-time student, some people taking 7, 8 years actually. But I did it in 5 years. 6th or 7th year, I got. I got my degree. That is the obstacle. And also, I went to Singapore because Tamil Murasu, the newspaper, was published in Singapore. All the document was in Singapore. So I went to Singapore, get permission from my university, get permission from National University of Singapore Library. I went there for 2 or 3 weeks, stayed in Singapore, went to the Singapore NUS Library. India, we need to visit National. NUS is one of the top universities in the world, right? NUS, National University of Singapore. The history department is really fantastic. So I went to the library. I got all the Tamil Murasu newspapers in there and have to write down everything. You can't bring back. Okay, so that is one of the obstacles. Get permission from the university, and they really, support. So that is the thing. And then I went to other universities as well in Malaysia. University Kebangsaan Malaysia, National University, University Science, of course, the place I studied, University Malaya, and National Library in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian National Library. So these are the places I went, a lot of obstacles and so on. But as a researcher, we don't look at that. We look at the knowledge that we get to produce our thesis, to get the title, just not for the title, how we contribute later to write journal. That's why after I did that, I write a lot of articles published in Scopus and ISI based on Indian history in Malaysia. All right, Indian history in Malaysia.
Because sir,
Okay.
what happened?
So that is what I did.
What it struck was,
Yeah.
when you were just speaking about editorial part, of newspaper.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
just came to know after, if you would have realized that after few years, the editorial part changes.
But
There is an
then-
upgradation in
Yes.
newspaper, which can be seen.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
my next question is, I'm curious to know that during old newspaper, the editorial part,
Hmm.
and during the new newspaper, the editorial part which you were doing in your research. So, what are the basic specification which were changed from that over period of time, and you need to cut down some things and you need to add some things in that.
Okay, I know what you mean. Anyway, I didn't compare the editorial column during my research period and at the present. I was only looking during that time period, 1946 to 1960, what written in the editorial every day, but I can't take all the issues. That's why I focus on certain issues like this now. Tamil education, Tamil awareness, politics, and so on. A researcher can't be doing everything. It's difficult. You need
Because,
to narrow
sir,
down the
why
scope.
I asked
Actually,
you this question, because it might be a roadmap for further, no? It can be a just, there can be a comparison between the old newspaper editions and newspaper editorial in the new. That can be a part, no, in further as a roadmap.
in further this one, maybe future research, they can do comparison, but in historical research, they still need to have the time frame, and then they can do comparison what was written in the newspaper during that period of time. Mine was British time, 1946 until 1960. 57 British left. Malaya got its independence 1957. So plus another 3 years I did for until 1960. So now, now in the different century, we can look into that for the future research by students under communication program. Why not? Students who are doing degree in communication or PhD in communication, because newspaper normally comes under communication field. So they can do comparison studies, no problem, no issue. It's a good idea, Stanley, actually, in fact. So when I look into the present, when I read papers, Tamil newspapers now in Malaysia, we got 5 to 6 newspapers. Of course, there are a lot of difference from the view of the editorial. During that period, most of the issue discussed about the Indians, how they struggle that time, how they're going to live in Malaya, citizenship values, and so on. Now it's more of, they give focus on education, how we need to improve our education among Indians, okay? How we're going to stay united in this country and work for this country in Malaysia. I'm talking about Malaysia, okay, and so on. All right, okay. So that is the thing I can see now, Stanley. Okay, Miguel.
Yes, sir.
Miguel,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Raise a hand.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr.
Thank you,
Ganesh,
Stanley.
sir, for very informative talk. Thank you. Sir, if you
Miguel.
have any questions, you can send it to Dr. Ganesh sir's mail ID.
Yeah. Yeah, Miguel.
Thank you, sir, for very.
Oh, no question. Itu கேள்வி இருக்கா? கேள்வி இருந்தா கேளுங்க. I have to speak Tamil also, I think. So, Tamil Nadu. Any question? Any other question?
Hello, excuse me,
I
sir.
hope there are many. Yeah.
Sir, I just wanted to ask
Yeah, who's speaking?
one question, not exactly a question, it's a suggestion from
Who's
your
speaking?
side. Hello?
Okay, all right. Yes,
Sir,
yes,
am I
can hear.
audible?
Yeah, no, your voice.
Hello, sir.
I mean, I can hear your voice, no problem.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Again? Can pose your question, Miguel. Miguel? Any other question from the audience? I know many of you are from different fields than history, I know, because most of you are from different. Anyone here from historical background?
Hello?
Hello, yes, Miguel.
Sir, my question is, sir, how do we maintain objectivity while doing a research? As we researchers are human being born with feelings, emotions. So sometimes there is a tendency that the researcher might be blindfolded by certain values or value system of his society or maybe of his country. So how do we maintain the objectivity while doing the research to maintain authenticity?
To maintain authenticity, how do we maintain the objectivity? Is it? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Of course, objectivity is very important. Of course, in historical research, okay, let us focus on historical. One of the main criteria in the historical research is objectivity. Historical objectivity, they call it. It stands for what is true and real. What is true? What is true we are writing, and the real thing we are writing. It implies the state of being free from personal bias, as you are asking, right? The personal bias, of
Yes,
course,
sir.
as human, these things might come in. So we have to be free from personal bias. And one more is sentimental approach, sentimental, emotional, and the state of not being. One more is one-sided. Okay, one-sided. Now, when we write, interpret, we cannot be focusing bias on one side, and the other side we are not focusing. And personal and partial. What is real? It will be the same what we write. Okay. Of course, as a researcher, we as a researcher, we have to throw away this when we do our research. Doesn't matter whatever research we are doing. We cannot be biased. We write the true things, actually, true factors. That is very important. Objectivity is very important. Particularly in historical research, it's about facts. We are writing like a story with facts. We are telling a story with facts. For example, I think about Japanese occupation in Malaya, 1942, 1945. A lot of research has been done, the impact and so on. So we need to get the evidence, and write the true factors of what happened. That is what in historical research about objectivity, write the real thing. Bias, moral criticism, all will come in it. But when we write, make sure it's objective writing in historical research. Even other research also same. We get the data, we interpret, and then we write up. The documentation is important, and then people read. They understand of what we have done actually, and then it must be there is a contribution to the knowledge, to the country and so on. That's why I was telling people asking me why there was one during my proposal defense, because lecturers from various races in my history department in University of Science Malaysia, right? Malay, Chinese, they were just asking me why you did on Tamil newspaper, why you never do on other language. I just answering as an Indian, only I know Tamil, so I have to do Tamil newspaper. If not, nobody will do on the historical background of Tamil. All were laughing at me. They were just posting that question during my proposal defense. They were just asking that. And then during my Viva, they were asking about the gap, because many people have done on newspaper research. What is so important about your research? What is so great about your research? What is the gap? So I was just answering. My interpretation is different because my research is based on the editorial column of the newspaper, which when I done my literature review, no research was done at PhD level on Tamil newspapers on this aspect, especially on the issues very thoroughly. So that is the gap that I can find and do my research. That was the question asked by my external examiner, Professor Danny. All right. My Viva was just 1 hour. I know some people take Viva around 2 to 3 hours. Mine was just 1 hour. 1 hour finish. After that, they say you pass your PhD with a minor correction. So, that's what we go through as a researcher when we are doing our PhD, right? Okay. All right, Miguel, I hope I answer your question. Objectivity, we throw away bias, everything. We focus on our research, especially in our historical research. Bias cannot come into the picture. Once bias come into the picture, your research is gone. You're not doing a research anymore. You are just writing a report, fiction, without facts. Okay, any other question? The audience?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Who's speaking? Who's
It is
asking?
This is Saili Pandari
Ah,
from same college
From
like
where?
Stanley Singhal your work, like Maharashtra
Where?
Mandal College of Commerce in Pune.
Oh, Maharashtra.
Yes.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
Pune.
Okay. Your question.
Actually, my question is related to historical research is also have some novelty, and how we are going to prove that novelty in social aspect. Like every research should be contribute something towards society, correct? So how historical
Yes.
historical
Yes.
research proves novelty of that your topic, or like novelty? What kind of
Okay.
novelty like brings in historical?
Okay, novelty, as you were asking just now, social, social contribution, it can be political, it can be economic, because when you talk about historical research, it covers most of the thing. When we talk about historical research, social, economic, politics. So depend on the focus of your research. Like mine, Tamil newspapers. So when we talk about newspapers, the contribution of newspapers will be towards social, economic, and politics in one particular society, particular group, particular country, and so on. Like Tamil newspapers, it is mainly focused for Indians in Malaysia, of course. But in the same time, it also asks the Indians to be united and contribute to the country they are living, that is Malaysia, as a citizen. All right. So what novelty you means in the historical, any historical research, not only my Tamil newspaper, any other topic also, the contribution must be there in the social aspect, economic aspect, or political aspect. If you are doing on political history, it will impact on political aspect and also social aspect. When we talk about politics, economy and social will come into the picture. It depends on the topic the researcher is doing and how it can contribute in the aspect of novelty you were telling, right, for the society.
Yes.
Of course, historical research will have contribution for the society and the nation as a whole, although it's past. But we need to know what our past is so that we can plan our future. That is what all about historical research. We cannot say past is past. We learn from past. Without past, there is no future. Okay, past will come into historical aspect. Then only it will go on. Another thing is the chronological aspect of writing the historical research, evidence, and so on in a chronological manner. All right, very systematic. We cannot write one story, jump to another year, and so on. The chronological aspect is very important. Novelty is actually, as you are asking, contribution is there with or without our knowledge. It is there. So how we explore is very important. After we done the research, how this thesis can contribute to the society. When people read, or they know this is what actually going on, let's say citizenship issues in Malaya during that time. If the Indians never asked for citizenship that time, of course, we might have left Malaya and back to India. Once the government of Malaya opened the citizenship to the Indian migrants, immigrants from India, so we apply, like my father, actually my father was born in Malaya. My grandfather is from India, Tamil Nadu, okay, Ramna district. And then they apply for the citizenship. We stayed here, so I'm the third generation. So without the citizenship, I won't be staying in Malaysia during, from my father and so on. So this is the impact that we can see. And now how we can develop this country or wherever you are living as a citizen, okay? So that is the thing. Even the political aspect, social aspect, how we can, let's say the toddy drinking habit in my research during that time, it's a big issue in Malaya among Indians, estate workers, family gone, family was, this one, the laborers drink toddy and a lot of problem fight. So from the research, we can understand and have some teaching value for us. This habit is not good. So we have to stop. And of course, still people are doing, but after we read, after we have some knowledge on this, we try to calm down and we try to control the toddy drinking habit. One more, the wage problem, labor issues. During that time, wage problem is a big issue. But now in Malaysia, Minimum wage already implemented. And one of the main key person is Professor Balakrishnan, our first speaker, is one of the main person in labor. So these are the historical part which was fought during 1950s and so on. And now it is applied. Okay. So these are the background we need to see from the past. Even in India also, during the British rule, how now, what's going to happen in the future, and so on. Okay.
Yes, sir. So
Sayali?
yes, sir. So every step, like every research has its own impact. So basically, it's a multidisciplinary. Why? Because I'm teaching economics. So there are some
Okay. Good.
references attached to economics from history, geography, and now the new education policy is like asking about that only, that interdisciplinary section. So every research can be divided into three parts. If like what is a problem statement, what are the causes, what its effects, and what is its impact. Correct? You are trying to say
Yes.
something?
Yes, correct. Yes, very correct. Like the COVID pandemic, right? Maybe we look into the medical aspect, the sickness, the people die, and so on. And then in economic impact, you can see a lot of economic impact because of COVID. And one more thing is this online program, which was there for many years before, but we never use it. I never use it also online with webinar and so on. But since COVID, many things are online, webinars, webinars and so on. Even this program started in 2020 when Dr. Frank called me. He was organizing a conference in Palmyra culture in Tamil Nadu, India. So I've written a paper on the Nadar community in Malaysia. So published. So they got my email, they called me. So that's the first webinar. Since then, this program, since last year, how many programs? Through webinar, because one of the reasons is because of COVID. Because of COVID. There's an impact, good thing. Of course, negative and positive thing, right? Negative, many people died and so on. Positive, people go into webinar meetings, Zoom meetings, Google Meet, without going to the place. I don't have to come to India to present. I already presented papers since last year. How many papers are in India without coming to India? And also, I also introduced some speakers from US, my ex-colleague from Indonesia, all come into this platform forum and speak and give their knowledge. So that is the positive impact, as you say, Sayali. Okay, we have to look into different perspective actually.
True.
Very true. Very
You were
true.
talking about
Thank you, sir.
1930 Great
Dear
Depression. No? So,
participants,
Yeah. Yes, Dinu.
dear participants, if you have more questions, you can send it to Dr. Ganesan sir's mail ID, email.
My mail ID, wait, I put in the chat box, or maybe can get from Dr. Frank, the organizer also. Wait,
Thank you, Dr. Ganesan sir.
Yes,
For
so
very
chat
informative
box is not available.
I try to send in the chat box.
Yeah, we have some technical issues,
Can you-
so chat box is not available. If they need it, they can send mail to Lavender Club. They will send that.
Okay, can, no problem. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ganesan sir, for very informative session. Thank you all participants who have participated in this 3-day international workshop. And we are winding up. We will send your certificates within 10 to 15 days to your mail ID. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dinu, and all the participants after the 3 days workshop. Hope everyone, if you get some valuable information from this workshop. And I think there are many more to come next month and the month after that. Organizer will have some more program like this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all. Thank you very much.